Let's get some insight now from Jonathan Steele, foreign correspondent, also a columnist with Britain's Guardian newspaper. He's joining us on the line there from London. Hi, Mr. Steele. We've just heard from our correspondent in that report from Syria how frightening the situation is, but of course beyond the physical violence we're also witnessing the worsening economic situation too as a result of the international sanctions. What do you think is the solution?
Well, I think the solution, hopefully, would be dialogue between the government and opposition forces, although, as your correspondent pointed out, it's hard to know who the opposition is. It's now very fragmented and spread around different parts of the country. But I think the Arab League plan of this week marked 2 steps forward and 1 step back. 2 steps forward in that it did push for a political as opposed to a military solution. It pushed for dialogue, which means the opposition also has to take part in dialogue, because you just can't have one-side dialogue. I think where it fell down was in predicting what the solution, or prescribing what the solution should be, just simply saying Assad should go and create a government of national unity under the vice president. I think it's much better to have an open-ended dialogue rather than tell people what the result has got to be before they start.
It's interesting you say 2 steps forward, 1 back. This has been going on for so long. Are we any closer to dialogue, to people getting around the table and talking, really, though, as we head into a new year?
Well, it's interesting to see what the UN Security Council will do. Obviously, Russia is pushing very much for dialogue. The Western powers are pushing much more for removal of Assad, as they've been doing for several months, and they've been very resistant to the idea of dialogue. So whether a compromise can be found in which the West does accept to put some pressure on the opposition for dialogue is the open question. I don't have much faith that they will do that. I think there will be a standoff at the UN, and the military situation will continue to deteriorate.
You've repeatedly written in your column that you think that the West should support the call for dialogue before it becomes too late, and shouldn't take sides. Do you think they're still taking sides?
Yes, they are, because, as I say, the Arab League plan, which was a Saudi initiative, but I'm pretty sure it was coordinated with Western governments in advance, still calls on Assad to go. But politically, they just say he should resign, hand over to the vice president and a government of national unity. So they're still insisting, over-personalising the situation and saying, you know, this one man must go. It's much more complicated than just saying one man must go. There has to be massive political reform. There has to be a good deal of economic reform, I think, as well. There has to be a fight against corruption, etc. And we have to know much more clearly what the opposition is proposing. They've also just been hiding behind this line of Assad must go without really putting forward a plan that would satisfy the whole large number of people in the silent majority who worried about civil war and worried about revenge from the opposition, because they may be perceived as having been pro-Assad in the good years.
Jonathan, Syria, of course, not trusting the Arab League, saying the Arab League, as far as it sees, it's trying to prepare the ground for foreign intervention in Syria. Are those fears justified?
Well, I mean, the foreign intervention, it was Qatar who said that there should be Arab troops going in, but that really was a damp squib. Nobody really took that up. I think the Arab League, if they're thinking about more and more about foreign intervention, are still hoping for the West to be the people who do it. But they're still not really coming out 100% for that. They're talking more about sanctions and this political pressure on Assad to resign.
Jonathan Steele, thanks ever so much for your thoughts. Foreign correspondent and columnist with Britain's Guardian.